Who is the worst team in the NL Central? Well, record would say one thing, while the last 4 games say another. What exactly can we learn about these teams that are bottom feeders in the NL Central the rest of the way? Glad you asked. Welcome into another Locked On Reds, Locked On Pirates crossover. I'm Jeff Carr, he's Stephen Offenbaker, and he's Ethan Smith. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks as always for making us your first listen. We're free and available on all platforms. On today's crossover, we will give you plenty of reasons to watch the Reds and Pirates over the final 20 games, as neither one of these teams are making the playoffs. But we are all suffering fans of 2 horrible teams this year. That is something that definitely brings us together. But one of us is happier than the others. I bet you can't guess who.
Well, I mean, hey, it's nice to have a 4-game.
Well, that's not happy. You don't sound that happy.
Well, I mean, this was our first 4-game sweep since like 2018, so it's been a while. So I don't know what this feeling is like.
First time since 1991 doing it to the Reds in Cincinnati. Just
Ethan is emotionally overloaded right now. That's that's what's happening between the football game on Sunday and the Pirate series. You know, the good folks of Pittsburgh just can't quite cope right now.
To quote the great Dejan Kovacevic, he said, "Does Cincinnati have a hockey team that the Pittsburgh Penguins can beat this week?"
Yeah, really. Not in the NHL at least. Well, looking at this series, there were quite a few good performances at the bat. They were all on Pittsburgh's side. There were so many home runs hit by the Buccos in this series. Who is your main guy that you take away from the series going, I like what he did?
Rodolfo Castro, 100%. A lot of people, I guess, forgot after last year that when he was here and struggled that the kid was 21 years old last year. He's now 22. He's a switch-hitting, power-hitting bat, something that is a hot commodity on any baseball team the last time that I checked. And, I mean, it's even funnier because on his home run that he had yesterday, he did kind of this little hand movement towards the dugout, and they were saying that apparently him and ONeill Cruz have this, like, little thing going on, that they have a little competition going on in the clubhouse. When you're out of the playoffs, hey, why not create competition internally? And I'm sure Cincinnati's doing it in some capacity as well. Another thing I wanted to touch on, though, it does suck that I'm not getting to see Joey Votto play right now. I do like watching him play, and it does suck, and I can only imagine how it feels for you guys.
Well, and I tell you this, if you watch the Reds broadcast, you can see him in the booth. He's pretty good in the booth, too, although I'd rather see him on the field. Steve, who do we take away from this series as somebody that was good?
Well, Alexis Diaz.
Yes, that one inning that he pitched was really good.
That one inning that he pitched. No, I'll tell you what, it was, for most of his start in yesterday's game, Nick Lodolo was just grooving it. Obviously, those finishes, we would like to improve on, his last inning of play each and every time out. But I also do feel like that he's probably of a mindset of, good God, please don't come and get me, because whoever they're bringing in after this is just going to screw the pooch. So I understand maybe sticking around with Lodolo a little too long in each of his starts. Diaz is one inning, but that was indicative of where he's at in his performance this season. We talked about this yesterday, Jeff. That guy's lights out. Of course, Kyle Farmer, the Locked On Reds killer, delivered a 2-for-4 performance because we talked about him yesterday not belonging in the game when he was put in a pinch hitter. And then, of course, I always root for a good catcher hitting the ball performance. So Austin Romine parking one into a very, very empty bleacher section of Great American Ballpark was also fun to see.
Yeah. You know who would have had fun with that one? Zach Hampel, because he would have actually been able to run to another section to go grab a baseball and not have
I would love to see that guy like trip and fall on his face, like trying to do. I would love to see that happen.
Well, without disparaging somebody who's picking up a home run ball, I will say this. Nick Lodolo, honestly, the one swing from Rodolfo Castro was his one blemish on the day. And there are going to be times here in the future when he is pitching that one swing will not be the one thing that kills him, because the lineup's actually going to support him. And if the lineup supports a guy that pitches as well as he has, 31 strikeouts and 3 straight starts to 1 walk. Absolutely phenomenal.
That's pretty good
from him. Absolutely
Yeah,
phenomenal.
well, for my Locked On Pirates listeners, they know I love the strikeout to walk ratio, so that is music to my ears.
One, it's my favorite thing to really gauge a pitcher because it's the number one thing they can control. They can control the strike zone, and if he does a good job of it, which he does, then it should be, it should definitely be bumped up the way that it has. He has been so phenomenal this season, and it's really showing through here recently. But yeah, if I got to pick somebody else, the other guy that I would kind of lean on a little bit, I was loving the performances I've seen from Reiver Sanmartin. And I know that's a little bit of a deep cut, but honestly, the way that he has pitched this season out of the bullpen has been nothing short of phenomenal. It's something that is going to definitely give him a spot on this team next year and to see if he can actually be a part of a successful future Reds side. And he pitched very well in the second game of that doubleheader, gave the Reds 2 1/3 clean innings. And overall, he's the other guy in the bullpen that I'm not that worried about whenever the doors open. It's Alexis Diaz, it's Reiver Sanmartin, and basically just flip a coin. Every other pitch that anyone else out of that bullpen throws, no idea what's going to happen there.
I also like that Aristides Aquino was back for one game in the series, and then now he's just Aristides Aquino again, I guess, after the rest of the series. Still, Steven, this was before your presence here on the Locked On Reds podcast, where me and Jeff jokingly said that Aristides Aquino would kill as a Pittsburgh Pirate, because PNC Park would play his play style so well that it was ridiculous. And then, of course, he got sent down at one point, I believe, and I was like, okay, thankfully that didn't happen. And then I saw over the last week that he was hitting like 350 with like a 700 slugging percentage and all like crazy numbers that he had. So it was nice to keep him at bay, and that was the thing I think that impressed me the most. The starting pitching has looked good, but they have had their struggles like Nick Lodolo does, where that one pitch will screw their whole startup. This whole series, that was not the case. And it also helped that finally, what I've been asking for since May finally has happened, where the offense is finally supplementing very good pitching on the defensive side, so that we're not killing our bullpen that actually does have pretty decent pieces in it. And it's allowing David Bednar to come back from a rehab assignment. Will Crow doesn't have to throw his arm out anymore. Stuff that means things down the stretch. And I would also go hot take here with both of our teams. I don't think either of these teams is losing 100 games.
Oh, see, I'm not so sure now, because I was telling Jeff on our show yesterday, Ethan, that for me, this series against you guys was the most embarrassing series of the season for the 2022 team. And I think they're on a downward trend. Off air, I told Jeff, and we'll put it on air today, Jeffrey. I was like, I hope they don't win another game. Let's just go all in. Let's not win another game the rest of the season and really just embrace the suctitude of what 2022 has been.
It has been one of the worst seasons in Reds history. I will say that. But yeah, I agree with you, Ethan. I was impressed with with Pirates starting pitching, especially Roansy Contreras. But I also want to get into something that I noticed, a thing that the Pirates did that I've seen other teams do as well. And it's really paid off against the Reds this year, and it kind of bugs the crap out of me. Going to tell you about that here in a minute, but you know what doesn't beg the crap out of me? BetOnline.net. They're going to help you out with your next bet, because let's face it, just about every time I tell you to take the over, Steve, what do?
Take the under, baby.
Exactly. You fade the crap out of me. I'm like an automatic fade. I don't know what it is. I think I just have to embrace that at this point. But I was looking tomorrow, and just at the two lines, as we've said, the Reds are taking on the Cardinals, first of 5 in 4 days. And then you have the Pirates and the Mets. We did this last time we crossed over, Ethan. And without looking at it, who do you think actually has the better odds to win a game tomorrow? The Pirates over the Mets or the Reds over the Cardinals?
Pirates, just because of the Mets slide that they've had lately.
Just slightly. The Pirates are plus 215, according to BetOnline, and the Reds are plus 234. Now, I would definitely take the Pirates starter over the Reds. Chase Anderson is starting for the Reds, and JT Brubaker is starting for the Pirates. But yes, if you want to check out your next great bet, go over to betonline.net. Whether you're talking about baseball, as we head into the playoffs, plenty of different things going on. You can bet on whether or not Albert Pujols is going to get to 700. He might do that this weekend. And you can check out...
do that. Day.
He might do that today against Chase Anderson. There's a lot going on down there. Plus, you've got NFL bets, you've got college football, all that great stuff can be found at betonline.net because BetOnline is where the game starts. Thanks again for making the Locked On Reds and Locked On Pirates crossover your first listen of the day. Coming up tomorrow, we've got some questions. I'm going to be looking at, when we're talking about Locked On Reds, we're going to be looking at some dudes who are currently in the midst of making adjustment after adjustment after adjustment in their hitting game, and whether or not that's going to pay off. Plus a great quote from Barry Larkin about those guys. And Ethan, what you got going on tomorrow with Locked On Pirates?
Just going to be covering a a nationally televised baseball game for the Pittsburgh Pirates on Fox against the Mets, where Steven off-air said it'll just be the announcers talking about the Mets and the Braves the whole time, and the Pirates are just making a cameo. So we'll talk about that, and then I'll preview the rest of the weekend series, because the Pirates are in New York for 6 straight games against the Yankees and the Mets. So Interesting times going on there. But you say, ooh, we are 6-2 against the Yankees and Dodgers this season.
I do remember that. You swept
the Dodgers would have 100 wins already if it wasn't for the Pittsburgh Pirates sweeping them in Dodger Stadium in May.
It's funny how that's worked out, because I'm pretty sure the Reds are going to hang a AL East championship banner.
100%.
American Ballpark this year.
And don't forget, you still play an AL East team. You still play the Reds. That is your only non-divisional series left this year.
Yep. Got a couple against the Red Sox coming up. But yeah, the AL East banner, however, the Dodgers beat us like a drum in every single game we played them. So that was a bit of a tough thing. But I'm a little bit bummed that it's Fox that's broadcasting and not ESPN, because ESPN just wrote this compendium, or at least Kylie McDaniel wrote this compendium as to why ONeill Cruz is the most exciting player in baseball right now. And we saw him pretty much get held in check for the most of this series, but he got a big home run. I think it was it off Derek Law? I forget. It was one of the guys that came out of the bullpen. There was a lot of different guys that came out of the bullpen in that final game. Hard to tell. But yeah, ONeill Cruz has definitely been interesting to watch in this Pirates lineup. But I wanted to get back to something that I teased before, because the Pirates did a thing that just about every other team has done to the Reds in a game which they have the ability to sweep them, and that is they dared the Reds to get a hit, because they put in, and I am blanking on his first name, but Yajure.
Miguel Yajure, yeah. Miguel
Yajure, who his numbers look like he's pitching out of the Reds bullpen. And he absolutely, I mean, I think it was like an 8-pitch inning. He went 1, 2, 3 against the Reds lineup. When you see a guy like Miguel Yajure come into a ball game, what's your first thought?
My first thought is, going into it, he pitched 3 full innings, and by then we were already up 3-4. We were up 3-2. So obviously, I'm having a heart attack like I had with Evan McPherson and Chris Boswell on Sunday. Which at that point, I was going to say, just go grab somebody from the Reds bullpen to kick or be your long snapper. You guys would have had a better chance than whoever the hell you guys had out there before. But Yajure's been that kind of guy where Contreras has obviously overshadowed him for obvious reasons in that Jameson Taillon trade. But he has the ability to do what he did there. But I do agree with you. By us putting him in with an 8.27 ERA, you were virtually staring the Reds in the face and saying, get a hit off of this guy. Score runs off of this guy. We do not care. Mm-hmm. Score runs off of this guy. And it's almost like the offense said, oh, we just put in a guy who has an 8 ERA. How about we score 7 runs in the final 3 innings to at least make up for that, right? And I was just like, I get it. I get the arms are tired and stuff like that. But if you're not going to utilize some of these guys anymore because their arms are gassed, rightfully so with how things have been this year, shut them down for the year, bring up these young guys you keep talking about, like Cody Bolton, Michael Burrows, Luis Ortiz, Johan Oviedo can move to the bullpen. Then you actually have a pretty cool bullpen to keep in mind and look at for while David Bednar is having a rehab assignment for whatever reason in the middle of September when he hasn't played in 2 months. Why is he even coming back? There's literally no reason for David Bednar to come back. Now, I'm the biggest David Bednar supporter ever, but even you guys would probably say, why does he need to come back? It serves him no purpose.
It's ironic that you mentioned that. There's plenty of guys like that the Reds have out on rehab assignment that were like, are we sure we really need them to come into this dumpster fire of whatever is left?
Hunter Green as the number one example, after missing a start or two, got not one, but multiple rehab starts in Louisville. And I kept saying to Jeff, unless he's like throwing only his changeup and working on a pitch, there's absolutely no good reason why he's pitching in Louisville and not Cincinnati. And nobody has ever really asked the question, or at least done it in a way that it provided an insightful answer to understand why at this point in the year you would do that with a player and go through all the motions of a rehab when the season's clearly lost and over. I'm with you. I would much rather them have just said, okay, if your situation warrants multiple rehab starts, you're done for the year, and we'll just see you out in spring training come February.
Yeah, and I think both of our teams should feel that way. I mean, injuries suck, and I know these guys want to come back and play because it'll be the last time they can play for 3 or 4 months, but would you rather be completely healthy going into 2023 spring training or re-aggravate an injury and be on the shelf the entire winter and not get to work on anything? Right. And for a guy like Hunter Green, the winter is going to be very important for him.
Yeah, because he's got to build a changeup. I mean, I know he has one, but he's got to build his confidence in it. And whether or not he can do that over the wintertime, that remains to be seen. It's got to be something he does in games, but it's not as if he's out. Like, I'm not hearing reports that he's down in AAA throwing 65 changeups. Like, it's not. They're basically just saying, yes, he's pitching like normal. He's building his arm up. And they didn't even say that. They're like working around it, like doing the whole like, oh yeah, he's, getting his strength up, building his strength up. And I'm like, it sounds like you're talking about a guy who's in the middle of spring training and starting to build up for the season. The season's almost over. If this is the point that we're at with Hunter Green, where it's like he's got to regain strength, let him regain it over the course of the winter. I'm with Steve on this one. There's no reason to have a guy like that rush back and hopefully start 2 games. I mean, there's only 20 games left.
And you also look at your lineup as well, and it's not like he's going to be coming in and pitching against mediocre teams. I mean, he's going to be pitching against St. Louis and Milwaukee or somebody like that. It's like, that's going to kill a guy's confidence to come back from injury and then have to face those lineups where the Brewers are 2 games out of a wild card trying to fight for a wild card spot. How do you think they're going to try to perform against Hunter Green fighting for a playoff spot? They're going to try to beat the crap out of him.
And with no run support whatsoever. So, yeah, I don't know, though. But what I'm curious, though, about when we look back at this series, Steve, is what is going to be your main, like, oh, wow, moment?
I don't know that there is one. What was oh wow for me was, oh wow, it's the first time that the Pirates have swept us in God knows how many games at Great American Ballpark in a 4-game series. Oh wow. Home runs are being hit into the bleachers at Great American Ballpark, and there's gams with walkers that have time to go retrieve the baseball. Oh wow. You've got pitchers coming out of the bullpen where I don't even know if you're making up their names or not on some days. So oh wow. But in all seriousness, I think for me, Alejo Lopez, oh wow, he's putting it together. I think for me, Alexis Diaz, a legitimate closer. Oh wow. I think for me, the fact that some of these younger guys in a season where it would be very easy to quit, in a season where it would be very easy to not try hard at all, they're still out there busting it. Oh wow, things to look forward to. So those are my real oh wow takeaways from the game. But the other stuff is just, this season's wearing on me, Jeff.
Yeah,
I don't blame you at all. And I do have an oh wow of my own. And Ethan, I'm going to ask you what your oh wow is. Mine involves a hitter, something that the Reds didn't see a whole lot of during this series, and we're going to get into that coming up next. But before we get into that, I want to let you know you can follow us outside of the show. We have plenty of takes, whether it comes to baseball, whether it comes to Ethan and the Clippers and NBA basketball, as that's not that far from getting started up here, and plenty of football takes between the Bengals and Steelers. And every so often, I'm going to give you a take like I did today about the commercials and why on earth Papa John's came up with a pizza bowl that gets rid of the crust. Like, who asked for that? Who
don't forget my
that?
Ohio State Buckeyes and Hawaii football Rainbow Warriors takes that you can get on Twitter as well.
Yeah, how did it feel when Ohio State beat a top 5 team? Oh, wait. Didn't they just lose to Marshall last week?
That was Notre Dame, not Ohio State, my friend.
Oh, I know it was. I said, how did it feel to beat that top 5 team?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hey, I take every win I can get at this point.
Bearcats, baby. That's all I got to say about that. Yeah, no, when I'm talking about, oh, wow. Oh, yeah, but I mentioned you can follow us on Twitter. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my Twitter handle is at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs. Steve's is at S. Offenbaker with 2 Fs. And Ethan's is at MVP_Ethan. No Fs in that. All right.
Except my takes. Those are Fs.
That's right. That's a good one. My oh wow player for this series, and he's a guy that I think I've resisted this take until now. I'm back in on Aristides Aquino. I am. You're going to see those season numbers and you're going to be like, he's batting like 202, Jeff. What are you talking about? Let me say this. He is absolutely phenomenal defensively. You want to make sure that his glove is out in the field. You want to make sure that his arm is out in the field. There was a situation where the Pirates had a guy on second. It was a single that was hit to Aquino in right field. He picks up the ball. They hold the runner at third. They know they're not running on that arm. Love that kind of mentality. But also, at the plate, the one thing that has killed him his entire career is the breaking ball low and away. Not only has he learned to see that, he's also learned to foul it off. I've seen him actually make contact with it because he has changed his stance. They've talked about it a lot on the broadcast where he does a toe tap right before he swings, and it kind of holds him back a little bit, and he is able to control his bat speed through the zone a lot more. He's able to foul off that pitch, lay off that pitch, and he's doing things that I love to see otherwise when it comes to actually making contact, and that is the only time he makes contact no longer is just home runs. He's hitting singles, he's hitting doubles. I'm seeing a much more well-rounded Aristides Aquino. Does that mean that he is the future cleanup hitter for the Cincinnati Reds? I'm not ready to say that, but I am ready to say that my unconditional love and complete unbiasedness toward Aristides Aquino has returned.
I mean,
listen, just because he wears number 44, Eric Davis is not walking through that door, Jeff.
Adam.
All right, no, enough of that. Ethan, what was your oh wow moment from this series, whether it's player or series? Help save Jeff from himself.
Well, the trio of ONeill Cruz, Roansy, Contreras, and Rodolfo Castro, who have all noted throughout the series that it was very fun now that they're all staples on this team. They grew up through the minors together. Contreras is a little bit different, but he came in and immediately latched onto those guys. He has a good start yesterday. Rodolfo Castro, man, if he can continue to just keep hitting the long ball the way he is, I don't see how you don't say that's your future DH. He's not that great in the field, but guess what? If you're a switch-hitting power hitter and you hit the ball like you did this series, you're going to find somewhere in the lineup for that kid. And that works for any team. That's not just the Pirates. If you have a commodity like that, he's going to start. My oh wow moment in specific to yesterday's game is something that I hear a lot from Pirates fans and externally and from Pittsburgh media. A lot of people look at this game and see ONeill Cruz homered. Great, right? Nobody likes to look at the fact that he struck out 4 times. He's very boomer bust right now, and it's because he's still getting acclimated to the league. He's still getting acclimated to seeing major league pitching. With that said, he's batting .223 with 15 home runs and 46 RBIs. Last time that I checked, you put that over a 162-game season on pace. That's like almost 40 home runs and like 120 RBIs. So I think
that's Joey Gallo.
Yeah, I mean, the wow factor is I get to watch ONeill Cruz play baseball every day and talk about him as much as I want and get paid for it. So, I mean, I think everybody enjoys that. And it was just nice to see the offense finally wake up. They just finally had a pulse. I don't know what it – I mean, maybe the Reds will find that fortune after watching the Pirates do it. Maybe it'll be a little monkey see, monkey do action with two bad teams. But for the Pirates, it's been dormant, and they needed this kind of thing. Now, what the fun thing I think that Reds fans and Pirates fans get to watch is who gives up number 700 to Albert Pujols, the Reds or the Pirates. I think that's where we get into a really interesting conversation.
Are the Pirates right after the Reds? Or the Pirates play the Cardinals right after the Reds?
The last 6 games of the year, the Cardinals play the Pirates. 3 in Busch, 3 in Pittsburgh. I already said he's going to do it on Saturday, October 1st against the Pirates at Busch Stadium. Because why? Because it's a Saturday game, 7:15 start in St. Louis. I think that is the perfect time for him to do it.
You know what that means? Nationally televised game, too, if you're a Saturday night game.
Oh, yeah. They'll make it nationally. If he gets to $6.99, almost every Cardinals game will be on television until he does it.
Well, he is going to hit number 700 on Saturday, but it's going to be this Saturday. With this many games against the Reds and this pitching staff, I can't imagine he doesn't hit 3 home runs over the next 5 games. I see it coming. I see it being done. He'll have a nice celebratory victory lap as he cruises off into retirement. That's just kind of how I see that going.
Well, you know who is slated to pitch on Saturday, don't you? Because of his last rehab start being on Sunday.
That's Mr. Hunter Green.
Hunter Green. Yep. So there's a very good chance, and he has given up quite a few home runs himself. So, you know, I'd hate to see that for him to be what that would be like pitcher number 250,000 that Albert Pujols has hit off of. But yeah,
because he recently did it against JT Brubaker and added to that number. So it was very interesting.
Yeah.
And you know what, Jeff? I wanted to circle back to something Ethan said about ONeill Cruz and relate it back to our buddy Spencer Steer, who was recently called up to the big league club in Cincinnati. I sat down with him a few weeks ago, just prior to him being called up by the Reds. And we did an interview where we talked about, you know, his approach to his game and the things he was doing. And he talked about how when he made a concentrated effort to increase his power numbers, just a natural byproduct of that was an increase in his strikeout totals. And he was actively working on trying to find the sweet spot in the balance where he would have the increased power, but have the strikeout still be an acceptable level. And I would imagine that, you know, ONeill Cruz is going through a very similar process and doing it at the big league level to boot, where, you know, he's expected to be the guy, right? He's expected to be the man. So trying to find the sweet spot of delivering on that while still keeping things like your strikeout totals under control is probably a very difficult balancing act at the big league level.
Very much so, yes. And I mean, you also have to keep in mind that the guy is 6'7" and has a strike zone about the size of my entire body. So, I mean, it's very interesting. And I think moving into next year with the new rules too, I think it'll benefit ONeill Cruz to have the shift kind of not in play as much. Now, he's not getting shifted on that much anyway because he does pull the ball to all parts of the field. But you do notice that the second baseman will kind of trail over a little bit when ONeill Cruz comes up, knowing that more than likely being a powerful lefty, he's going to pull it that way. Now, I did say this as a joke about the new rules. Thank God the Pirates don't play at Three Rivers anymore because of the timing and the wording in that rule about the shift where it says your player has to be in the dirt. At Old Three River Stadium, there was only dirt around the bases. The rest of the field was grass. So we would have been screwed for 81 games because our
you'd have the
guys would
weirdest
have had to
shift
be
ever.
literally right there. Now, what I am interested in, I wanted to get an opinion on this, that said that you have to be in the dirt until the pitch is thrown. So are we going to literally see guys just booking it to the outfield in the grass after the pitch is thrown to try to get out to a ball?
You get like the arena football, like formations that they get on offense where everybody's like sprinting up to the line right before the hike or something. Yeah, that'd be kind of crazy to have like a specialized infield that way. Just like, all right, and go. All right, shift over. I don't think so. I think that you'll still probably see a lot more straight up defense. You'll see double play shifts. You'll see, the infield in whenever the bases are loaded and things like that, which I do wonder, like, was there any sort of phrasing, because it was something that the Cardinals employed heavily in that marathon 13-inning game that the Reds and Cardinals played a couple of weeks ago where they had a 5-man infield? Was there anything saying against that? Because I don't remember.
When I read it,
I think it spoke to minimums. It didn't speak to maximums. So a minimum of 2 infielders on each side of second base. So I think that would be allowable. Here's what's going to happen, guys. This is going to be the first year of it. They have tinkered with it in the minor leagues, but that's not the real deal. They're going to roll it out next year. It's going to make its appearance in the major leagues. Teams will do whatever they can to find a way to get right up to the line and find a competitive advantage. And then that rule is going to get refined. It's either going to get refined halfway through the season or it could potentially wait until the offseason. But the true intent is to go back to a traditional, true positioning of infielders. And that's the direction they'll continue to refine the language to get it to a point where we have a true third baseman and shortstop and a true second baseman and first baseman. And they'll get it there. And it might take a little bit. And Rob Manfred might actually have to do a little bit of work to get it to where it makes sense. And God help us while we wait on that, because that man, as you know, hates baseball.
Well, now I also just can't wait for Box after the third pickoff attempt with ONeill Cruz having a lead halfway towards second. You have to get him out or else it's a balk. So
yep. Exactly. We're
going to see that a lot.
It's going to be interesting to see the implementation of all of that, but that's definitely going to be something that we are going to speculate on quite a bit as the season comes to an end and the offseason moves forward. But that's going to do it for us here on this crossover edition of the Reds and Pirates, Locked On Reds and Locked On Pirates episodes. Ethan, thanks so much for joining us. If this is your first time watching either Locked On Reds or Locked On Pirates, make sure you are subscribed. We have you covered every single day right here about your favorite team, the Reds or the Pirates. And we are going to be with you all through the offseason, as well as both of these teams are in a period of transition. And I said it earlier this season, I still think I'm standing by it, that I think that the Pirates are 1 year ahead of the Reds in this. I think that next year they're going to be pretty interesting to watch, so long as they actually manage the roster the way that they should.
Ha 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 ha. Yeah, that's your big part right there.
That's a thing that
you're expecting Bob Nutting to spend money, Jeff.
That one, well, not for money, but like just to have the right guys up. Anyway, that's more for you to discuss and more for us to just watch and find out. But that's going to be it for us here. Make sure you now check out Locked On MLB, as Sully has you covered with his unique takes and perspective on the league-wide goings-on each and every day. That's Locked On MLB, just like Locked On Reds and Locked On Pirates. It's free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, Odyssey, iTunes, Spotify, Google. Basically, think of a podcasting app. We're there. We'll talk to each and every one of you tomorrow.